Mikel Arteta, welcome to Arsenal. Fantastic news, guys. It's finally done, and Mikel Arteta is the new manager. Now, I did talk about that they'll be doing some film walkthroughs and things like that. So, regardless of what happens, Arteta is there. He was there yesterday and going through the light training session tomorrow morning on Saturday morning. So, that's something that Arteta's still going to be a part of. And like against Arsenal versus Manchester City last week, Arteta's probably going to be taking a few notes, full introductory of his role and what his expectations are. And I really want to talk about what's been going on in the fan base right now, and I just want to address everything as fair as I can. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is it a gamble? Well, every coach you take on is a gamble. And for the fans, it's a gamble as far as expectations. So let's look at this where it stands. The expectations for Emery was very high because he was one of the most decorated managers in Europe, coming off a treble at PSG, winning 10 trophies in 5 years. So the expectations from Arsenal fans were, we're going to get somebody who was proven. Let's park Arteta for a minute. Let's park the expectations with Arteta. But with Emery, the expectations were, you're going to come in, you're going to fix the defence, you're going to get us into the top four, and then you're going to win us the Europa Cup. None of that happened. None. So we are where we are today because of our high values and expectations were not met. Up steps Arteta, where the expectations are not as high in terms of it being a gamble. Well, there's a gamble with every manager you take on. And I talked yesterday in my video about we had our David Moyes in Emery. What we did not want to do was go down that road of hiring a Van Gaal. And in my opinion, someone like Ancelotti would have probably been a Van Gaal. It would have been short term. It would have been a win now scenario, which you can't do when you have a club that needs so many things to be fixed. You can't go back in to say we're going to win the Europa Cup trophy or we're going to get into the top four when you're putting out fires. And that's essentially what we are doing at Arsenal. Right now, in this situation with Freddie Ljungberg, we are putting out fires. That's what we're doing. Yeah? We're not elevating ourselves into the top upper echelon. We're not doing that. We have so many things wrong. The strike force is being starved. The midfield are not supplying the strikers and they're not helping out the back four. The defence is horrible. Coaching as well. The coaching has been poor, inconsistent. The tactics are horrible. The team sheets are bad. You know, we're putting the wrong players on the pitch and asking them to do a job when they have not been doing a job for years. All these different things doesn't work. If it's rotten at the core, guys, if it's rotten at the core, there's no foundation for success. So what we have here in Arteta, and as I said, it's not a gamble, yeah? Because you have to start at rock bottom. Regardless where you are, the only way is up. We've hit that plateau where nothing is working. One win in our last 11 games. So nothing is working. So in terms of us talking about is it being a gamble? No, because the expectations from the board, from the fan base are at an all-time low. So we expect to see certain things. And so that covers my second thing, obviously, is expectations. The fans are going to have to get behind Arteta, and they're going to have to get behind him in a big way. And I'm not meaning us sitting at the Emirates being 1-0 down and moping our faces. We need to shout at the top of the mountain to back this team if we're 1-0 down, if we're 2-0 down, because they need us to be the 12th man more than ever before. Yeah? More than ever before. It doesn't matter if we're getting beat 3-0. They need the fans to be behind them 110%. And that's the only way that this thing is going to work as far as the fans go. Yeah? I talked about Arsenal fans being privileged and us expecting top four and winning the title. And guys, listen, if you haven't changed your philosophy and expectations by now, you better do it today. Because today, yeah, we're walking a new path. We're walking a path where we have to hit the reset button. And everything that we expected to do, which is win the Europa Cup and get in the top four, that gone, that boat sailed. Right now, you have to strip it down or get rid of all the rot and the dead wood. Because while we've released 21 players in the last few years since Wenger's gone, There's mumblings about how some players are not happy. And look, if those players are not happy, move them on. You can only excel if you've got 110% backing by the players. I'm not surprised to hear this kind of language coming from the players. And listen, this is unconfirmed. Yeah, the agents that I've talked to, the writers haven't confirmed anything. We haven't had any confirmation. Yeah, at the moment, it's just hearsay. But if it's true, then players can leave, because it shows you the lack of commitment that the players have had throughout Emery and Wenger. Yeah, you're the guys that have been failing the managers. The managers have been asking you to do a job which you have not or not wanted to do. You haven't done, or you've not wanted to do it. In the terms of how I understand the role and my job as well, it's skill or will. It's, do you have the skill to accomplish it, or do you have the will to want to do it? That's how I put down with Arsenal. And we know they've got the skill. I talked about it in my last video when I said this was a team that got to the Europa Cup final and died. This is a team that after 32 games were in third place in the Premiership. Third place, looking to lock in a top four. And everything just died. And the players never recovered from that. And it's what's inside of your head that's done it. The skill level, I know this team can achieve. They've proven that to me on many occasions. Unbeaten run, winning streak, you name it. But what we're seeing now is a lack of will, as a lack of them wanting to actually do it. And from what we have seen, they don't want to do it. Check the heat maps. Check the amount of duels that have gone in. Check the amount of tackles. Check the amount of commitment that these guys have had, where they don't want to press, they don't want to tackle, they don't want to commit, and they don't want to work hard. That's what we're seeing. And that's what poor Freddie has had to deal with. He's had to deal with the fallout of that. And Arteta, he won't stand for it. He ain't going to stand for it. The next step, and the first and foremost, is for Arteta to look at what is going on in this defence and have the right people in the right positions. He's going to have to deal with a few injuries right now, yeah? Klasnach has just gone down. We've got Tierney out. We've got Bellerin who's struggling. We're going to have to deal with a few issues. But you've still got to go with your hot hand, yeah? And Sakho can take up the left-back position as he did for Freddie in the under-21s. I expect Sakho to be playing left-back against Everton this Sunday. But my God, you've got to put some structure in the shape of the back line and the midfield covering, yeah? Stay with the holding two midfielders. They need support. A lot of the goals that I've been watching that we've been letting in, and we're averaging letting in 2 goals a game, has just come from a lack of support, a lack of positioning, poor awareness, all this stuff put together. And in Arteta's point of view, if you can't do that now, after 16 games and after all of last season, if you can't do that, then it's time to go. And it's time to bring in someone in January who's going to pick up the reins. But I'd still like to know where Rob Holding is, because, you know, I know he been a little bit short of late, but I expect him to probably step into that role as a starter. I don't want to see anything else outside of Chambers and Holding starting for this defence. It's just the way how it's always had to be, yeah? So realistically, that's it for me. Arteta has to fix defence. The next thing is the January ins and outs. Arteta has to focus on, as I just said, who's coming in and who's going out. And you know what? If I was Arteta this week, I would sit down and have one-to-ones with all the players. And I would talk about my expectations, and I would talk about what do you want. And from Arteta's standpoint, it's, are you committed to the cause? How much do you want to win? Are you willing to work hard? Are you willing to push yourself more than what you've ever pushed yourself before? Because, listen, that's what it comes down to, yeah? The desire, the lack of passion and commitment from these players over the last few months has been appalling. And if you're not willing to run sweat and blood, then you might as well go. Because most of the defeats that we've seen, especially against Brighton and Sheffield Wednesday, those teams aren't more talented than us. But they just were willing to run themselves into the ground. And what won those games for those teams was heart. What lost the game for us was a lack of it. So I expect to see Arteta having that real conversation of trying to see where your head's at. for every player. And if Aubameyang turns around and says to Arteta, look, bro, I know you're on your journey, but I want to win now, so I want to go to Real Madrid, then that's fine. And there's nothing that anybody should be saying horribly about a player who wants to go. You're within your rights to go and want to be with somebody else because of what they can achieve and what you can't. Yeah, be honest. Don't drag. This is the reason why when Sanchez said he wanted to go, I was one of the first fans that said, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Because, and look what's happened to Sanchez. He can get burnt to Ras, him gone. And where him there now? Yeah? So it's just one of those things where you've got to have 100% committing. You can't have a team where players are just not being committed. I said that about Man United in the summer, didn't I? I said if De Gea and Pogba and, a few of them players there aren't committed and want to go, then that's going to be Man United's downfall this season. Because you're starting off on the wrong foot with a team that's not committed. So for me, Arteta needs to cover that, and he's got to do his ins and outs in January and bring people in who's going to do a job. And while he's at it, take a couple of men from Man City as well. Yeah? Couple of men in the midfield like Fernandinho, a couple of men in the midfield that will do a job. Who's not getting enough playing time? Yeah? Take a few of them man there and tell them you're going to be starting every game. You're going to be a starter at Arsenal. If you want to play more, come over. We'll sort you out. And get that structure in. I felt that this is something that Emery struggled to do, because remember, all these guys, Guendouzi, Torreira and all that, that was all Sev Mislintat. Emery never really had a say in those players. It wasn't his role. And I talked about before, Arteta wants to have a more prominent role as a head coach. He wants to be involved in the contracts. He wants to be involved, not the lead, but he just wants to have a say in the transfers and everything else. And there's no problem with that. Yeah? Wenger had too much power. Emery didn't have any power at all. Arteta's in a place where he wants to find a medium. He wants to find a balance so that he can submit his philosophies and values more. Yeah? And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. Expectations, defense, transfers, ins and outs, etc. Then you can look to start to put a more competitive team out to start to challenge. And it's that, and only after that, that as fans we can start to talk about making a top four. That's it. You can't have a man in start talking about top four, winning this, winning that, winning. Done with that. Yeah? Fling that out the window. Because right now, that's not important. What's important is that we have some structure. That's what's important. These players need leadership. They ain't getting it on the pitch, and they certainly haven't been getting it on the sidelines. Not of late, anyway. So what we need right now is a leader of men. Someone who's going to implement structure. And once that's done, then we've got the foundation and the building blocks for success. But only then. And I think that Arteta can do the job. It's not will he do it. I think he can do it. But he needs the support. And the board is giving him the support. The front office is giving him the support. The only support he needs now is from the players and the fans. So I applaud everybody to get behind your new manager. Mikel Arteta, welcome to Arsenal. Peace out, right back at you. Hit that like button if you like what I'm saying, and please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for your support, guys. Appreciate the love. Peace.